Hey, what's up, Rebel Nation? This is Nick Rivera, aka Scorionics, coming at you live Friday night. And then you know what that means, right? It is Development Hell. So this is our second episode. And again, I got my good friend Ben Freese, writer, director, producer, editor, guy who does everything, doing the show with me. And today we're going to be covering one of my compositions I turned in for the DC CW Stargirl scoring competition presented by Spitfire Audio. And so Ben is going to kind of walk us through everything, and I'm going to kind of talk about what I did. And it's not going to be a very long podcast, but I'll try to get to some advice and some feedback for people that are wanting to start and get into the business, and some things to steer clear of. So don't go away, because at the very end I'll be covering over all of that. But first, I'm going to introduce my buddy Ben Freese, who's going to be helping me out, and he's going to have some stuff to plug at the very end. So Ben, don't let me forget to make sure that gets done. Okay.
I won't.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Hey, so
Yeah.
this is Ben Freese here. Glad to be with you again, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. I love having you back here, man. It's always fun when you and I are whenever we're doing something that has to do with media. So whether it's, recording stupid director commentary for a movie that was, made, like, how many years ago has it been since we made that movie?
40 years, I think.
so yeah, roughly about 40 years. I was one when we made that movie.
We are younger than we sound.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think what that movie came out 2006, 2005.
Somewhere thereabouts. 2004, I think, actually.
2004. Okay. Yeah. And it was really crazy because that was the first movie, like that was a full-length movie, and you shot everything and kind of and pieced it together in different parts of the country, right?
Yeah. I wrote it and starred in it. Edited the movie together. You did the score, of course. My old reliable buddy. And yes, we did actually. I filmed part of it in Indiana, and then in various places in Arizona.
I remember telling you, like, or saying to you, I was like, how the hell are you going to make this work? Like, what are you doing? And then when you had asked if I could do any of the special effects, which if you look at the movie, the special effects aren't that great, but for 2004 and a zero budget, they're pretty awesome.
They were pretty close to Skywalker Ranch.
It was. We were looking at some
time.
real Lucas art ILM work being done pro bono on 200 and what I think it was like 215 of RAM. I mean, just like
something
nothing.
Like that.
I mean, the most ridiculous amount of RAM possible.
Or it might have been 2 RAM.
Yeah, it was 2. That was it. So
I
it was
think
2
back
megabits
then.
of RAM. And
did they even have RAM back then? I don't remember.
Yeah. You have to have RAM. Are you joking? I can't tell if you're joking.
No, that's just me and Nick. We always love to joke around and everything. But today we're here to talk about another project that Nick is involved in. And Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about it? It's a contest involving the TV show Stargirl.
Yeah, so I try to follow all the different contests that are out there, and I recommend everybody to stay abreast of the different competitions and contests that you could get involved in, because there's so many people that are going to be looking at this, and not just people that could potentially send jobs your way, but collaborators, people that you want to talk to, people that might say, hey, listen, I love your music, like, I'm sorry you didn't win, or I'm sorry this didn't happen, but I think it would be perfect for this indie I'm shooting, or this game I'm developing, or this video that I'm making, this commercial that I'm doing. You really want to take advantage of the digital technology that we have now, because just even 15 years ago, we didn't have a lot of the stuff that we have now.
Exactly. And you might get noticed, I mean,
man, these contests are really, really good way to stay up on that. And then also just to make sure that, you want to practice your craft, right? Like, I mean,
right.
And same with you in editing, right?
Exactly. And, practice makes perfect. So the more you do, the better you get.
Right.
And,
yeah.
And just to kind of clue in your audience here. So these contests, you basically are taking a scene and they are ripping out the original score, and the people in the contest make their own score in place of it for a specific scene in a specific show.
Well, the way that it works is that so once once you figure out what contest you're going to be in, they typically send you the clip with no music. So
Right.
it's just the hard audio, the raw audio from from the actual shoot and everything. And
Still with
so it's up.
effects, right? Like
Yeah, they'll still have
gunshots and
yes, they'll still have all the
that kind
effects
of
and
stuff.
things like that there. Yeah, absolutely they will. But for the most part, everything else is taken out. And so
So, as an editor, I know that there are layers of things. So when you look at an editing track for an editor, you have the video and the audio of what you recorded. You have the mics, like the lavaliers or what have you. You also have tracks where you put your sound effects, whether it's gunshot, someone knocking on a door, a burp, whatever it is.
yeah.
And of course, the music, is put on there, and you can finesse each of these things, and what comes out is the final product. And you, of course, when you are doing your composing, you are putting different sounds together to to put it all in together into one track. But you also have a multi-layered tier of things that you're taking different sounds and audio and putting it into one. Correct?
So the way that it works is typically the sound design. That's not necessarily anything that you're going to work on unless they ask you to do the sound design. So you've got to just be real careful. And so it kind of goes to the expectations. Once you get your project, the expectation is going to be laid out pretty clear for you, clear to you. They're going to say, hey, listen, we've got a 3-minute track. That we need written. All the sound design is done, so you don't have to worry about like the Foley effects. You don't have to worry about this, that, or the other. There might be occasions where you have a sound designer and you also have a composer, and then
Sure.
you also have an audio engineer. So you might have 3 people working all at the same time and collaborating. And that's why these contests and entering these contests is so important, because it allows you to start making those connections with people and learning how to collaborate, because creativity tends to be one of those things where people try to protect their idea. you know
Of
they hold
course.
on to it like a death grip, and really when it comes down to making stuff happen, you're not going to get anything made unless you're willing to make changes, unless you're willing to share, unless you're willing to be part of a team, because nobody makes everything on their own, right?
Right, of course, and yeah, like you said, collaboration is the
It's huge, it's huge,
the
it's
big part of it, and
mhm.
that's all part of the art. You're making art together and finessing it all together within these expectations, and then of course, you can't take forever with it because you're going to have deadlines.
Right. Well, with the art form itself, this kind of touches on the last episode that we had where we were talking about discovering your voice. And discovering your voice is something that you're gonna want to do because it really helps you to start hammering out your sketch. And so what I'm gonna do right now is I am gonna play my clip here, people to hear exactly what I'm talking about. And then I'll kind of go through this right now. And
That's okay because I can still experience it.
there you go. Yeah. I'll tell you what happens, but I'll do it in sign language.
Great. Still can't see it.
The bus!
I got it. kids.
Stay behind the bus.
All right, easy, one at a time.
What happened?
This was a mistake. We need to go.
We need to find Icicle.
Relax. Deep breath.
Joey!
Cool. All right. So, with that whole sequence there, that I wrote, if we look at the timeline, or the tracks listing here, you'll see that there's not a whole lot of stuff that I put in. There's some definite beginning, middles, and ends to the sonic ideas that I put together. And so what I did before I started writing was I went to go and look to some of the really, really great composers that have normally gifted at writing these really big, bold, beautiful, classic Hollywood type of fanfare. So everyone will go probably directly to John Williams, but I went right to Elmer Bernstein. And I went to Jerry Goldsmith. And matter of fact, I was re-listening to Jerry Goldsmith's score that he did for Air Force One and then for The Last Castle. And there's a lot of real huge fanfare trumpets playing like that, and those real evocative flutes that you heard during some of those portions. But really, those are what I did first. So my art form comes my voice comes mainly from classic Hollywood, the Bernard Herrmanns, the Elmer Bernsteins, those people. Those are the people. Those are my idols. Those are the ones I'd like to be like. And and we talked about like Hans Zimmer and Alan Silvestri, and Trent Reznor, and there's a lot more contemporary people that I like also. But that's where I started off with my art form was back there. And with your deadlines, you don't want to be sitting around trying to find your voice, because you don't have time to do that. At least when you're editing, I would think, Ben, when you're editing your stuff, you kind of already know the direction of the movie, where it needs to go, so you can kind of pick up the beats of the film, right?
Exactly. And I was just talking to you earlier about a movie I'm currently working on. It was close to finishing filming when COVID hit, and they still have like 2 or 3 scenes left to film. So I've actually been editing scenes for the movie, knowing that there are places where there are holes in the plot. What we're going to do is, once I'm done editing all the footage I have, we're going to sit down and line up all the footage and look through it all and just see if what's missing, and if there's any plot holes or things that we need to think about or add in before we finish
Right.
those final scenes.
Yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. So it's just the opposite, though. It's already been edited, so you need to create the beats. You kind of need to create the beats sonically, right? They've already got the story down, they've got the acting down, all that's done. It's been chopped and shot. You just need to score it. So what I try to do is build an idea, and then after that, I need to come up with a beginning, middle, and an end. And usually, I try to do it um, uh, by creating a story with the music. So if we look at my track list right now, um, and for a lot of people that say you can't combine libraries, I'm using Native Instruments Action Strikes Rise and Hit. I'm using Sonokinetics Da Capo, 2 instances of Tootie Espressivo, 2 instances of Albion 1 from Spitfire. I'm sorry, 3 instances of Albion 1 from Spitfire, 2 from Albion 2 Legria, 2 from Albion Tundra, which is their 5th one. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 instances of Sonya scores the orchestra complete too, and then I also have Sound Iron's baritone guitar that's in here, which is awesome. If you get a chance to get their iron pack, it's really inexpensive. They got some really cool instruments in there. And then I've got Heavyosity's Forzo, 2 instances of Sample Logic, 8 Dios hybrid, and Symphony series brass. And it all works together. And the reason it works together is because if you're really good at editing on the visual side, you can make cuts that people just won't see what's happening. You have to point it out to them. Like, you see right there, that's not even the real actor. It's a stunt double.
Yeah,
But you
exactly.
do it so well that, that nobody notices. And that's the thing with coming up with a really, really good idea and writing it and having a beginning, middle, and an end. It gets you between beat after beat after beat.
Yeah, and
So
it's almost like a puzzle, putting a puzzle together. You got all
it
the pieces, you
is.
have to assemble it together. You have to, a big thing with editing with music is continuity too, to make sure that everything is finessing together the right way. And like you said, like with the footage, like you're not showing the stunt man too close or something. You're cutting it so that it looks like from behind it's that person, what have you.
Yeah, you chop it the
Yeah.
best way you can, because I mean, let's be real. There's never a film that goes without a hitch, goes off without a hitch. There's
Of
always
course,
something
of
that's
course.
going to happen. And it may not be visually, it might be the audio, it might be something else, it might be special effects. There's just a bunch of things that happen.
Right.
Which is why it's good to get that real life experience, and this is a good way to do it. Your goal should be, so if you're looking at my track list here, you'll see a very clear, distinct line. There's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. And you can see here, I don't have a lot of music written. It's just very paced out. Your goal should be to do something like this. Find the beats in your video, record your music, and your goal should be at least to write between 30 seconds to a minute every time you sit down to write. And that might take all day. I mean, it's a very crazy process.
But it's so worth it.
It is.
Yeah.
There's a great payoff at the end, and the medium benefits from both, right? The visual and the audio.
For sure.
It benefits from both.
You have to take your time with it. I mean, just as far as the time you're putting in, I'm not talking about deadlines. I mean, you got to make those, but just as far as like when you sit down, don't expect, oh, in a half hour I'm going to have this all set. Like when I sit down to do my editing, I know I'm going to be in for anywhere from 3 to 5 hours probably.
Yeah, and it's different because the other one that we're going to do later on next month is we're going to go back to my Spitfire entry for Westworld. And Westworld, that was a different project because it was almost all action.
Yes.
And for me, I shouldn't say it was almost all action. It was all action. There was really no.
It's pretty action packed, yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't a ton of dialogue, but there was a lot of stuff that was going on. And I wrote that one a lot faster because it was easier to kind of just go with the pace of the shoot. But this one, you've got you got a beginning that's very tense, troubles happening, and then you've got the character breaking free like the protagonist breaking free the robot and then coming to save the kids. And then once the kids are safe, it's got to take a lull, kind of take you into this very calm state, everything's all right. And then there's a build up before the kid, it gets in the accident, and then the end. And you also want to do a stinger for CW and everything. So you've got to just realize that you're gonna need to write all this stuff.
And you're
you don't
building
have
a
to get it
story. You have to think
exactly.
about how to write the different parts of the story. In a sense, it's like with the action one with Westworld, it might be a little easier to just have a consistent action theme going throughout and vary it here and there. But
Right.
even then, it's hard to keep up that level of intensity when it's with Stargirl. It's completely
Mhm.
different because you're building a story and emotions over the course of the
Yeah.
clip.
And you're meandering in and out of different emotions because the girl's feeling one thing, the older, Luke Wilson's character is feeling another thing, the kids that are on the bridge are feeling something different, the guy that's in the truck is feeling something,
Exactly.
the guy who creates the problem is feeling. So there's so many feelings going on. But yeah, like the Westworld one is there's bad guys are trying to kill the other guys are good guys, they're trying to get away. That's that's it.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
the whole sequence. So yeah, and you don't have to completely finish the track. Just just sit down and write. That's what I mean by that is get a melody down, get a harmony down. Don't worry about trying to finish it. Don't worry about mixing. Just shoot for beginning, middle, and end, and take it in blocks. And
And and Nick, I'm just curious,
mhm.
which one would you say was easier to score? The
The action
action
one,
one or the?
action one, hands down.
Okay, I was gonna say
Yeah,
probably.
action one, hands down. Not because because of my film background or anything, but because it was easier to maintain a certain level of action suspense. That was it. Those were kind of the two things. There was action happening, and then suspense between the bad guys catching the good guys. This one though, there's so many emotions that you got to hit them all. And one thing I also did too is not only listening to Jerry Goldsmith and Elmer Bernstein, is I went back and I actually listened to music from Smallville.
Okay,
Like it or not, they had a lot of really good orchestral music that was in there because it's kind of like a soap opera, right? I mean, that's
for sure.
basically what it is. But the music that's in there always fit the background. Like it always just sat nice in the mix
Do
for
you
what was
think?
happening.
Sure. Do you think orchestral music is better for emotional clips?
I don't. I there's. I think any music can fit any kind of mood or emotion. I mean, like if I could have, I probably would have tried to score all of this in like blues and some Jimmy Page and like I mean just gone crazy in it. But they're trying to do two things with these contests. They're trying to get you to think outside the box. They're trying to get you to maybe think about music a different way. But they're also trying to make sure that you understand that this is the product and you need to support the product because it's not Nick's competition for who can score my film the best. It's hey, this is our product, this is DC and CW's product, and we're seeing who can score this. So but you guys got to do it you know with the same type of intention that we would if you were getting paid to do it. So and like I said, uh, I think this was in the first one that we didn't release, but like at the very beginning, I even said there's a guitar that's in here, a baritone guitar that you can't really hear too much unless I were to tell you where it's at. But it's got this big bass riff at the front. And I got that from listening to a Nine Inch Nails song. And I was like, you know what, it'd be cool. And I don't want it to be too Iron Man, I don't want it to be like that. But I was like, this guy's wearing like a hot rod as a robot. I'm like, he's basically wrapped in rock and roll. Like, I'm like, I want to put some kind of guitar in there, even if you can't really hear too much of it. But I did.
Because I mean, you're in a very subtle way implementing that in as part of it, and it's
Yeah.
very layered.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that you just got to find creative ways to do that. If you think about a painting, you have multiple different strokes going on the one canvas, but all those different paint strokes all together creates that picture. That's the way you should look at making music is you need to complement one melody or one line with something else. And like I said, between orchestra and just general music, pop music, typical quartet or band, it doesn't matter. I think when music moves you, it moves you. It doesn't matter what it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
I
exactly.
think that's
Yeah, when you were talking about the Stargirl music and developing that and
right.
all the emotions, and when I had mentioned, well, when I asked you the question about the orchestral music being emotional, I thought of Star Wars, and I thought, man, how different that would sound if it wasn't orchestral. Like if it
Yeah,
had some kind of like Flash Gordon type theme, or um,
exactly.
I don't know. It's just like because it wells up at certain points, and it just puts this emotion into you, and it's just amazing how music can move you.
There's nobody that there's I don't think there's one person on the planet, um, and I'm trying to be as sensitive as possible because there are some people that can't hear, but they still feel, emotion through a number of different ways. So I think that at some point, whether it's music, visually, by touch, however you experience life, you're going to find something that's a medium. There just are. And it's going to come in whatever shape, and it's gonna make you feel something. It really will.
Well,
It's like
yeah. I'm
no,
sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's like when a person is blind and they go and they touch somebody's face. I mean, they are painting their own picture of
Right,
what they
exactly.
are quote unquote seeing. Of course, not really seeing, but they are forming something.
But to them, it is a form of sight, because that's how they engage the world, right? That's their method of doing it. And to them, and to all of us, we need to run towards that, whatever form it's going to be. So whether it's visual, whether it's through touch, whether it's through sound, whether it's through, like, going into a candle store and you smell like a lavender candle, and you're like, oh, this smells so good, like, oh, this makes me so relaxed.
Right.
Again, that is just a unique, scent that's giving you emotion, and music is no different. It's a good call out, because I think a lot of people nowadays want to just put together whatever they think will work, and hopefully that'll stir something inside somebody. And that's just, at that point, you're just making, music to consume, not music to move, if that makes sense.
Right, right. And I mean, is that your goal, Nick, to get people?
I think
Excuse me.
my goal, as far as my goal going forward, um, I really just want people to be inspired uh, by what, the music I'm making. I want somebody to hear it and think, if they're studying for a test, or if they want to run that last mile, or whatever it might be, I want them to be able to listen to my music and feel like they can do it.
You want them to be able to smell the candle of your composition.
It's pretty much, yeah. I want them to smell my candle of my composition. Yeah, I had to make it weird. So,
I got to bring my unique perspective.
yeah, that's right. No, but honestly, in a sense, yeah. I do. I want people to be able to listen to my music and be able to come away from it with some sort of feeling, and hopefully the feeling I was shooting for is a feeling that they have. But whatever they feel is, to each his own. That's great. If you can feel something from what I've written, even if it's hate for what I wrote, that's still a win to me, because it stirs emotion in you. So, you're succeeding at that point.
I'm just curious
Yeah.
how that's involved in the Stargirl competition.
So as far as the business goes, when you're taking on a project, it's going to differ client to client with how long you're going to be doing it. Or I'm sorry, how long you're going to be contracted to do the work for. So since I wasn't contracted to do the work, and this is all completely free, and CW and DC own the rights to everything, and I mean, this music is mine. It's not licensed to them, but if they were to use it, then it would be licensed to them. You have to come up with some form of being able to record all this stuff. So if I were to go down, and talk about the business and expenses for all of this, I'll just tell you right now, what you really want to do is find a good library that suits your needs. And I mean general needs. You don't want to go and do something like I might have done early on in my career, which was, if I buy the best software, I'm going to make the best work. Uh-uh. That does not work that way. 100%. Absolutely the worst piece of advice anybody can give you is get this software, because it's really, really good. Any music that you make that sounds good is good. Someone's gonna love it, someone's gonna buy it, someone's gonna accept it. And at the end of the day, you make music as an art form. If you make music solely for the business and solely for a paycheck, you're gonna be completely, um, detached from your work. You're just not going to have you're not going to have a voice. You're not going to have a signature. When someone hears it, they're going to be like, that's just elevator music, right?
Right. And if the business likes what they hear from you and they contract you or what have you, then they're the ones who are going to put it into the best possible.
Exactly. Exactly. So here's what I'm going to kind of go over here.
Right.
I'll bring up my screen recording again so I can kind of go over this. So Native Instruments has their complete package, complete 11, complete 12, 13. I don't know. There's a bunch of them. But if you go directly to the Native Instruments website, you can pick up complete, for about $1,000. Let's just call it that. It's about $1,000. If you get it on sale, you'll normally get it about $5.99, which is absolutely great because you get over a terabyte worth of software. If you can see here, I've got that. I'm only using 2 instances of Native Instruments. You'd think at $1,000, man, like I would be using that for everything. No, only using 2. Yeah, and the thing is you just got to find a good, balance. You might sit at a bunch of drums all day long, like, I like this drum, I like this drum, I like this drum. And then you go into the back of like this warehouse, you find an old drum, you hit it, and you're like, oh no, this is the guy. This is the one I want to use. This sounds amazing. And that's what it is, a lot of trial and error. So Native Instruments is about $1,000 or about $5.99 if you get their discounts. Sonokinetic here on these two, each of these were about $250 each, so that's another $500. And then I've got another one here which I got on sale, that's about $150. Albion 1 is probably still the best software you can get out there because it's the complete orchestral section. There's no individual sections for like the violins and the trumpets, but you don't really need that. You can always go and get some individual instruments later. If I was going to recommend something, it'd be Native Instruments Complete to get a variety of instruments. There's so many, and you've got instruments from all over the place. You've got them from the Middle East, Africa, Cuba, North America, everything. So if you want diversity, go with that. It also has Stradivari violins recorded actually back in Italy. They've got those, and a lot of sound design tools. Albion 1 is the best, in my opinion, the best whole orchestra section for trailer hybrid music. It's absolutely fantastic.
So would you say it's kind of like the starter pack then for people who might want to start composing?
I would say that Native Instruments Complete is the best overall to get you some different sounds. Albion 1 is the best thing to start off with. And then if you are just not good at writing arpeggios, like you want to dun 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 dun, and you can't play like that, Sonya Score's The Orchestra 2 Complete has all of that built in for you. And what I wanted to kind of go over, just to kind of, to tie in the business and the expenses, is just in the business, you might hear people say like, oh, you're using the sequencer, or you're using this software to make your music. It's not real music. Listen, if Mozart could have actually written the music this way, he would have. He would have done it.
Right.
You're foolish not to take advantage of the technology. So if you want to get ahead, don't worry about what those people are saying. The technology is there for you to use it.
Well, and you've said it before, you're not classically trained, and not everybody is. Not everybody can
exactly
pick up a violin and play it amazingly, but you can still, mimic and make those same beautiful sounds through composing.
Exactly. And it's not fair to silence yourself because somebody feels threatened by it. That's not your concern. It's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to be the best version of yourself you can be. And if music is your passion, write the music that you like. It's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you happier. And those people, they're always going to exist. Don't worry about it. That's the business. Those are some of the people that you'll meet. But guess what? You don't have to deal with them. you don't have to work with those people. And trust me, there's enough great people that are out there that will work with you, that will help you out. There's far more good people than there are bad people out there to help you, get started and get through it.
What people have to say, that goes right into the half step and feedback. I mean, that's also a very important thing. I think, explain to us the difference between just, because you see a lot of negativity nowadays from people just about everything, and the difference between that and actually helping you grow as an artist.
Well, so after I was done making the composition, I sent it over to one of my colleagues at samplelibraryreview.com. If you can, guys, go check out the website. I'm a contributor on there, and we always have specials going on. Not specials, but special deals that are all over the web, so you guys can save a ton of money. But so I sent this over to Brian Barlow, who's our site manager and contributor and musician and everything. And he gave me some feedback. He said, everything sounds really, really good. I like it, but it's really hard to hear the audio, the actual dialogue. And, I had gone through it and I didn't realize that I I didn't check the levels for the dialogue. I didn't, draw my levels and stuff. And let me kind of show what I mean by this. So here, so people will be able to see this, but you'll see this automation, these yellow lines here. What these things are for is how you make the music change dynamics. So there's peaks and valleys. You'll see it go up, down, and then you go up again, up, down. That's how you make music sound realistic. And that's what I did is he gave me feedback. I listened, I changed it, and the product came out a lot better for it. Um, and sometimes people don't really have a whole lot to say. Sometimes people are just like, hey, you did a great job. You just need to I would make a couple tweaks here, and that's it. That's all I would do. I think it's fine the way it is. And just take like I said, take the feedback, work on whatever they gave you, and then move forward, move forward.
Exactly. And you're always going to have clashes of, people, personalities, and what people think. And especially if you're working for somebody, you really have to listen and be willing to, change things around if things just don't work.
I mean,
Um,
you think Marvel would make any movies if all these fans that were so completely dedicated to the source material had their way? They would never make a movie.
right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it's a mixture of your talent and somebody else's talent will make a good product. And that's that's collaboration. That's the beauty of working in this field.
But of course, even with the beauty of working in this field, Nick, come the challenges. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So, I mean, the biggest challenges I would say is sitting down and writing. It's it's not easy to just sit here and just come up with music. I'll sit at my desk and I'll sit here trying to come up with a really really good idea or a really good, maybe trailer music or something. It's hard. It's really really hard. It's it's like a writer writing a novel. You get writer's block. There's nothing wrong with it, but you get it. Everybody does. Everybody gets it. So I would say that's the biggest challenge is continuing to write even though you feel like you have writer's block. Just put something down. Write a melody, leave it, write another melody, cool, leave it, and then get up, walk around 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I always keep my phone with me and I just turn on the voice recorder and I'll just come up with ideas. Or I'll pull out on my blog, I listed a publication called Spectrum, and they've got a bunch of issues, but I always buy it because it's filled with concept art, Ben. In fact, I think you would really like it because it's got sculptures, it's got 3D models, it's got computer drawings, it's got comic books. I mean, it's got all kinds of stuff, commercial art. And I just flip through those pages and I just start getting inspired. I'm like, there's a cool Viking riding a freaking dragon. It's awesome. What's his theme song, right? Like, and true story, that's actually a picture I saw, and there's a like a drum. It's like a whale drum or a whale pad, but the picture of the pad, it looks like scales. And so what I was thinking when I saw the dragon, I was like, oh, it looks like scales. And so I started like running my fingers up and down the piano, and it started making this. And then I threw some reverb and delay on it, and all of a sudden I just got like this really weird. And I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome.
That really sounds weird. Weird.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. And I was like, no, I'm gonna take it just a little bit farther. I want it to be like when I'm running my fingers on it, I'm gonna make two tracks. One of them is gonna be the sound, and then the other one I'm gonna just kind of touch it, and I'm gonna throw it through like a distortion and try to make it sound like it's growling. And and so it's just like, you see what I'm saying? It's like those ideas that just come out just from little things like that. That's how you make music, and that's the challenge. You got to figure out what stimulates your creativity. But if I just sit down at my piano, forget it, man. I'll be here all day and accomplish nothing.
It's hard. It's hard, but being inspired is something really cool that helps you with your work. Like when I sit down to do editing, I
Mhm.
mean, the most creative I can be with editing is when I have multiple takes. I like to look through the
Right.
different takes, and as long as it is cohesive and there's continuity to it, it's not like a guy has his shirt on and this shot, and the next shot he has his shirt off. I mean, you can't go back and forth with the shirt disappearing and reappearing. But if everything matches
Right.
up, then you can take a guy smiling from take 5 and match it up with some dialogue back and forth from take 1, and
Hmm.
if you're creative with it and it looks right, no one will even notice. That's the magic of movie making. And when
Hmm.
when you like I said, for me, that's where I've got to find my inspiration, is trying to figure out how can I put my unique stamp on this. And for composers, it's a very different story, because you're trying to come up with something out of thin air, and you have inspirations and stuff, but you're trying to come up with something unique and match it to the project you're working on.
Yeah, and I think it's I don't think it's harder for composers, just like I don't think it's harder for writers. I think it's all equally tough. I just think that it's if you're passionate about something, it challenges you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be passionate about it because it would just be something that you just do,
Right. And if
right?
you love it, you want to work on it. So
Yeah, and I think that the more hungry you are for making something new, for being, different, for being diverse, and really responding to just changing the way that you approach your craft. I mean, God, it's so much fun. I love, absolutely love doing what I'm doing now, and I love writing, and I love drawing, and I love film. But the thing about sitting here and making music, the thing that I just love about it is that I don't have to run this by anybody. I don't have to send this over to somebody. I don't have to worry about like somebody showing up. I don't have to worry about any of that.
you're not being micromanaged.
Yeah, and the thing is that when I'm making my own music, it's my schedule and everything, and I don't have to worry about it. And it goes up when it goes up, or it goes on when it goes on. When you're working on a client's project, again, same type of thing. You're gonna get something handed to you, and you're gonna have to create something by it. Same thing, except there's a little bit of challenge there because you got to get it done, and you got to make it different, and it's got to be this or it's got to be that, and that's where the challenge comes in, and you gotta want it. You gotta run towards the fire. Can't run away. You gotta run towards it.
And it's so much better and so much more fulfilling than a regular everyday, 9 to 5 job, where you are just
Mm-hmm.
told do this task, and then, hey, did you do it well or did you do it bad? And that's pretty
Yeah.
much how you're graded. And with the stuff we do, like when I edit, when you compose, I mean, there's so many different things that go into it, and it's so
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling.
It is much more fulfilling than I could have ever dreamed. And I wish and this is kind of the last thing I'll leave you guys with as far as like feedback and challenges is just if I can tell you anything, just run towards run towards your passion. Don't wait. Don't wait for somebody to help you. Just start going. You'll learn as you go. And honestly, if you wait, you're going to wake up and it's 20 years later and it's going to pass you by. It is. Run towards your passion. Don't be scared of it. Don't be scared to fail. Don't be scared to shine. Also, that's a big thing. Don't be scared to step in the spotlight. You could fail, but you know what? Who cares? You're in the spotlight, man.
At least
It's
you're
better than
trying.
it's yeah, it's better than being in the back room stocking boxes. You're in the spotlight.
And not everybody can do this. Honestly, not
Yeah,
everybody can sit
exactly.
here and do this kind of thing. But if you want it, and you realize you can actually, you know, get started on something like this and develop yourself and work within, all these things we've talked about, then you've got a shot just as well as anybody.
Yeah,
And
and that's kind of why I said run towards your passion, not necessarily towards what I'm doing or what you're doing.
right,
Just run towards the thing that you love to do the most because I've never met any person who loves what they do every day ever complain about their life.
exactly. And
I
it may
just
be you may
yeah,
love to write and nothing else. You
exactly.
you
You
may
might
love
love
to
to
act, and that's your craft. So
yeah, and that's it.
run
You know, the
towards
set
it. And that hunger you mentioned, Nick, I mean,
mhm.
that's normal. And when you're hungry, you feel like you need something. And this really fulfills that part of it. I mean, if you're hungry, don't go order pizza. Sit down and start creating something.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you can do, but as far as that, like that's all I can say with the feedback and the challenges is you're the biggest challenge. The only way to overcome it is to just sit down one day and say, I'm a writer, I'm a composer, I'm an actor. because once you say that, you make that proclamation, guess what? Every day you could be an actor. Just got to
And
figure out how to do it.
and Nick, that's what I do when I come on this podcast. I say I am a co-host,
Yeah.
and
And then I
then we
actually
start.
say, yeah, we don't practice. We just get on the microphone and do whatever. And matter of fact, so I want to wrap this up because I don't want to keep you any more than I have to. So Ben, did you have anything that you wanted to plug? I know you had some stuff that you were still working on. I did release some of that on our last podcast, and I'll put it back up there for this one as well. But did you have anything, any more news on your projects? Are you gonna?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nick. I made reference earlier in this podcast to the project I'm currently working on. It's a full-length feature film drama called Kit Bash.
Mhm.
And Kit Bash, I am winding down the editing. Probably by the end of this month or early next month, it'll be
Oh,
done.
very cool.
Then
Very
we then
cool.
we need to, as I mentioned before, go through and kind of finesse everything, see what's left, and then they'll actually finish. The director, who's Avi D'Amico that I mentioned before, he'll finish up, wrap up the filming. And I'm not sure if I'll help out on set with that or not, but I'm sure I'll be editing the final pieces, and then we'll have a complete project. And I'm hoping, I'm sure he's hoping that will be streaming somewhere like Amazon Prime. Netflix is obviously a huge goal for most people trying to get movies out there for people to see.
I mean,
So we'll see
it
what
is. If
happens.
you want to reach a huge market, yeah, Netflix is great. But you know what? You got Tubi, you got Pluto, you've got so many different streaming, companies now that are just wanting content. I'm sure he could get it on a number of different things if he
Yeah,
wanted to.
and I'd mentioned on your first podcast how he does have two movies. A movie
On
called
Amazon, right?
Yeah, on Amazon Prime that are streaming now, and anyone can sit down and watch. And I would highly suggest people check
Yeah,
out the movie
that's great.
Positive and the movie A Tiny House Christmas. Those are both streaming right now on Amazon Prime. I appreciate you letting me plug those.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we'll have Avi D'Amico on the program in September as soon as his schedule permits, and we'll have some new composers coming on. I'm hoping to get Brian Barlow, our site manager over at Sample Library Review, and possibly Don Bowden to come on and talk about his experience as a composer. And I will plug his Rehabilitate bus also. Um,
Sounds
so
awesome.
yeah, it is. He's done a lot of work on this bus. It's been great. It's awesome. I'm hoping to see it when it's done, like everything that he did with it. But that is everything that we have tonight. Once again, thank you for stopping into Development Bay. Development Hell. That's the editing bay that I call it. Yeah. So I don't know what I'm saying.
You were thinking of Michael Bay.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Michael Bay. So at the end of this, I'm going to add an explosion.
Exactly.
But Ben, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for co-hosting again. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hopefully you'll have some more information on your movies as they unfold here, and we'll make sure we plug them and get people to go and see them. All right.
And we're excited about your projects too, Scorionics.
Yeah. Going by the pseudonym, I decided that I was like, do I do it? Do I not do it? And I said, screw it. Yep. I like it though, man. I love that name. Scorionics is just cool.
It's a cool name. I'm trying to figure out one for myself, but maybe next time I'll have one.
You should just call her. Yeah, it's time. It's time for me to get off the podcast.
For now, I'll just be Flunky.
Yeah, you'll just be Flunky. Flunky 1. There's already a Flunky 2. But he was so flunky. Oh my god. I am done.
Hey, you know what, Nick? Flunky 1 is way better than Flunky 2, 3, or 4, or 5. So I'll take it.
That's true. Yeah. Hey, well, listen, man, I will talk to you later. Thanks again for stopping by. Appreciate you. And Rebel Nation, take care, okay? We'll see you next time, and it'll probably be in September, first or second week. Take care.